This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money, you sorry
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
Man.
Michael Russo from The Athletic back here on The Fan. It's been a fun show so far. And really happy to be joined by the Minnesota Wild president of hockey operations and general manager Bill Guerin. It's been a busy month for Billy, especially since the playoffs. I went to the World Championship. His other job is the Olympic GM for the 2026 Olympics. They just revealed their top 6 choices for the Olympics. Can't wait to cover that in February over in Milan, Italy. And then, of course, his real job is being the GM of the Wild, and he's got the draft coming up this weekend. Just acquired an extra pick today in the 4th round with his trade of Freddie Gaudreau to Seattle. That will be chosen on Saturday. They have 5 picks that day, and then free agency coming up on Tuesday. And Billy, it's like, do you enjoy this time of year, or does it get stressful as you're competing with 31 other teams to try to make your team better?
No, I really enjoy it, Mike. It's this is kind of like my season, like this and the trade deadline and, free agency period. It's stressful, but I like it. It's exciting. It's, it's competitive and I love this part of the job.
You obviously made the deal today with Freddie Gaudreau. You get out of the last 3 years of his deal at $2.1 million. He had a good time here in Minnesota, 4 years, had an 18-goal season, a 19-goal season. But you wanted more flexibility, and you add $2.1 million to not only this year's cap, but obviously the next 2. Was that pretty much the genesis of the trade?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Freddie has had some really good years with us. He's been a great teammate, and he's a good person. I mean, it's just to create a little more flexibility. We have to change, a little bit, and we just want to, continue to get better. And I just think the more flexibility we have going into this part of the year, the better. And like you said, he had 3 years remaining on his contract, and we were able to. I don't really want to just say get out of it, because I think that's kind of a negative thing to say about the player, but we just wanted to create a little more flexibility.
Right. Yeah. That's my unfortunate lack of eloquent writing and talking.
No, and that's what everybody says. That's not just you. And it's true. I just really respect Freddie a lot.
Yeah.
So, I just want to try to rephrase it.
Yeah, and I know that you, those are probably some of the tougher calls that you have to make when you trade somebody, right? Like, we all take it for granted that a guys just get traded, but you don't think that you actually have to make that phone call. I remember you telling me that one of your toughest calls was to Dmitry Kulikov and letting him know that he had been traded. And Freddie, I know how much you respect him. Did he see it coming at all?
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a tough part of the job when, especially you've had a guy for a long time, and, Cooley had just moved to town, and, his kids were just starting school. And, so that was a tough one. Freddie's a tough one. We've had him for, a number of years now, and you get to know people, and, I know his wife's from here, and they're very happy. And that's a tough part of the job. It's never great, telling a guy he's been traded when he's happy.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. We're talking with Bill Guerin, the Wild general manager. And Bill, obviously you have the draft coming up, but it is trade season. And when you trade a center, and we know that how much you want to also improve the center depth, the obvious question then is, all right, do you have it in the works to try to replace Freddie in some capacity, whether that's via trade, or do you feel like you have to go out and do something in free agency if you can't get a trade done? Could you kind of paint the picture of sort of what's next here to replace Freddie's role on the team?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to. We do have ideas. We're not just, we're not just kind of, guessing. We know that we've traded a center. We're going to have to, replace him. And we'll do that one way or another. But we're still confident in the guys that we have. Hopefully Danilo Urov can come in and maybe take a crack at it. But then there are trade options and free agency options.
What is this, like even for you, I got to think we both know what the free agent list looks like. And obviously there are some guys out there that might still be intriguing, whether a Tavares goes to the open market or a Patrick Kane, a Brock Besser or something like that. But, even for you, you've waited 4 years, just like the fans, to go out swinging this offseason. But if the grocery store isn't stockpiled with great groceries, you can't go out and just spend a bunch of money on, secondary items. So is it even frustrating for you that there might come a point here in a week that you got to take a step back and say, all right, you know what, we're going to be patient with this cap space and go into maybe even the rest of the summer or next season and try to weaponize it that way?
Yeah, and it's tough. It's turned into a really bizarre off season where it seems like all 32 teams, or at least 30 of them, are trying to get better. The cap going up this drastically means teams have to spend money. More teams are keeping their players rather than putting them in the market. And we want to limit our mistakes. We don't want to just spend recklessly and we want to be as smart as we can about things. We do want to get better, but the biggest thing for me in getting out of the cap hits right now is to be back in the game. Like during the season, at the trade deadline, over the past 4 years, we've missed out on so many trades because we couldn't fit players into our cap. Now we can. If we're smart about it, we keep some cap space, but it's just being in the game that excites me. It's not necessarily just for July 1.
Makes sense. Marco Rossi, you had some really interesting comments today that also was a good reminder to the sports writers that sometimes give the play-by-play a contract negotiation. So what's going on with Marco right now is a normal thing. That sometimes there's disagreements at the beginning of a negotiation, but usually you bridge that gap and we'll see what happens here in the couple of days and the weeks ahead. But are you confident that eventually, that if you can come to an agreement with Marco, that you guys are going to be able to find some sort of compromise that puts him into a comfortable position that you're both happy with?
What do you mean by comfortable position? Are you talking financially, or are you talking...
that you're both comfortable that whatever contract number you come to, that you're both going to be happy with?
Well, I'm definitely, I'm confident in that. I think, there's long-term deals, short-term deals. What do you want? Are you going to be happy with the years? Well, are you going to be happy with the money? To answer your question, yes, I'm confident that we can find a happy contract for both sides, but it just might take a little while, and sometimes you got to grind through these things.
Yeah, it kind of I usually hate arbitration processes, and I'm sure you do too, as a former player and now on this side of it. But it is kind of a shame he doesn't have arb rights, because it almost seems like, all right, just let somebody else figure it out, and then you just at least know you have him under contract and won't have to be dealing with this maybe even by training camp, right?
No, I don't feel like that at all. You know what? Listen, we feel we know the value of the player. We feel we've made fair offers that that are supported by the market, and you know what? That's it. I would rather not take a player to arbitration, because I've been through it before, and it's not fun for a player. It's just not. Hey, yeah, you get the deal done, but there can be a lot of damage done in arbitration hearings because it's really not pleasant.
I remember, and you know him well, John Van Beesbrook, when the Panthers took him to arbitration in the mid-'90s. I remember him it hurt him, like reading and hearing the stuff that they said about him, which, at the time is all business, right, to get the guy in the contract that you want, but it could get pretty contentious quickly. And so I hear what you're saying there. Do you know, the one thing, Billy, and you mentioned it again today that he was in your top 6 all year, but in the playoffs, it wasn't long before he eventually had to be downgraded in the lineup. I mean, do you think, is that just a one-off, or do you think that to win in the playoffs that you can win with somebody like Marco in your top 6?
Yeah, it's just that Hartsey was playing really well. Mm-hmm. He was playing better than Marco at the time, and Heinze elevated Hartsey. That's it. Like, if I think Marco Rossi is a 4th-line player, then I should just quit my job right now and never be in hockey again. Mm-hmm. He's not a 4th-line player, but he is somebody that he is a player on the team, and players on the team can get moved up and down the lineup as the coach sees fit during a game or during a playoff series or whatever. That's the coach's prerogative. That's his job. And that's that. And you know what? And Marco played great, and he scored 2 goals there, and the line was effective. They just didn't like the optics of it. And all of a sudden, he's a 4th liner in my eyes. Not true.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. We're talking with Billy Guerin. Bill, the other big excitement about this summer is the potential of a contract negotiation and extension for Kirill Kaprizov. We know how important he is to your team. You were saying today that just because, he could sign as early as Tuesday, don't panic if it doesn't get done. Are you still as confident as ever that this will be a negotiation that you could see through completion without some of the headaches that you've had to deal with in the past trying to get Kaprizov signed?
Yeah, I'm confident. I'm really confident that he's going to re-sign here, and I know Kirill likes it a lot. Mm-hmm. Look, it's not going to happen, in a 2-minute conversation. These things all take time. We're looking at some other players that were in the same situation, and some guys sign in August, some guys sign in September. It just takes time. You got to just kind of work through it.
It is really interesting.
So, yeah, Mike, to go off of what you said, if it's not done on July 1st, don't panic. Just don't panic.
You know that everybody will panic, though. So, but No,
I know you'll be calling me every 5 minutes.
I just don't want to do it when I'm in Spain or Hawaii or Milan or
right, exactly.
So you were hired while I think I was in Cancun, if I remember correctly, Cancun or Cabo. So
yeah, you were in Cancun.
Yeah. And you were
one of those places.
Yeah. I will say, I'll never forget. You were so nice. Remember, I embarrassingly missed your press conference, but yet the next day when I got back, you still sat down with me one-on-one at the St. Paul Hotel. So I appreciate that.
I don't think I'm a jerk. I try to be accommodating.
Can I ask you just how excited are you? The one thing about this season that's excited for me, and everything could change here in a matter of days if you start making additions and things like that, is that right now it does look like you are going to have the potential of some really good quality young kids in the lineup. If Ogren's here, obviously Zeev Boyum, Juracek, Volstead, and then of course Danila Yurov. Is that an exciting thing for you, or is there a little nerves with that? Because when you add potential of 4 or 5 rookies to the team, you never know what you're going to get with that.
I'm really excited about it. I think, I think it's good for the team. I think the youthful energy, that injection of youth into the team, I think it's healthy. And I think, that pushes the older guys, and the older guys push the young guys in a different way and, help bring them along. But then the older guys knowing that these guys are going to help. And they're good players, and they're gonna play big roles. So yeah, I think it's great. I'm really excited.
And just lastly, obviously, the draft coming up tomorrow. But those beat writers, sometimes you just worry about trades. I mean, do you have anything close in the hopper, or are you thinking right now that there won't be big news tomorrow?
Yeah, probably not. I don't know. I might have some stuff going on. I might not. Who knows?
Any chance I can come to your team staff party tonight? Is that possible? Or can my recorder?
No, we'll probably find you hiding out or just driving by the house or something. You have your ways.
What are you serving?
What do we have? We got chicken wings. We got tri-tip steak, asparagus salad. Yeah, one of our chefs, Ryan from KZ Provisions, is out here helping me out.
That's awesome.
He wouldn't let me do it on my own, so it's really awesome.
That's nice. Well, yeah, that's something Billy's doing. He's got the entire staff coming out to his house tonight for the night before the draft. So pretty cool. That will be a blast. Billy, talk to you tomorrow, and talk to you Saturday, and talk to you Tuesday, and many times coming up.
Yeah, don't lose my number, Mike. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks. That is Billy Guerin, the president of hockey operations and general manager for the Minnesota Wild. Night before the draft, round one on Friday night. Right now, the Wild at least don't have a first-round pick. And then on Saturday, they've got 5 picks. When we come back, Joe Smith, my colleague at The Athletic, is in studio. He'll be on for the final hour of the show. We'll be back on The Fan.
Before we go, thefan and bigdeck.com. I'm going to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. The keyword for this hour is grand. The keyword grand, KFAN.com. Keyword.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
Grand. Head over our contest page, enter for your chance to win a pair of tickets to see renowned comedian Brian Regan at the Mystic Lake Showroom, September 27th. KFAN.com, keyword contest enter.
Mike Russo from The Athletic back here at The Fan. Brad, Sean, Brian, KFAN text line is 64686. Got a ton of them here. So we'll divvy through that. Joe Smith, my colleague at The Athletic in studio. Joe and I at a dinner last night with our rest of our Athletic colleagues. That was a blast, Joe. We should do that more often.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to get all of us together during seasons. Like, we know, Johnny couldn't be there because of the NBA draft, but it was cool to get all the baseball, hockey, and meet people from the HQ together. And cool spot too. I lived in the North Loop, so I lived across from Northeast where we went, Cabana Club, and it was a great place.
Yeah. I used to live in downtown Minneapolis as well, so I hung out around St. Anthony Man a bunch. Missed that. Just being back there just made me realize how cool that area was and how much I miss it. By the way, I'm filling in for Barreiro again on Monday, and Greg Cronin, the new Iowa Wild coach, is going to be one of my guests. He just confirmed that is one thing that I forgot to talk to ask Billy about. In fact, we didn't even ask him today at the press conference, Joe. But I'm excited about the hire. Like, I know, like, everybody just takes gospel, if people say that guys are hard and all the players didn't like them and all that stuff, like, who gives a darn? Like, the guys in Iowa need some accountability and need a detailed, structured coach. And for 38 years, that is what Greg Cronin's been. So the young guys in Iowa, in Anaheim, didn't love him. Wow. Whoopee. Maybe he'll tone it down a little bit. Some guys really performed really well there. I mean, we saw Jackson Lacombe have an unbelievable season this year for Anaheim. I think it's going to wind up being a good hire.
I think it very well has the potential to be. Like, look at the guy's track record, especially in the American Hockey League. Just because the NHL didn't work out the way that they wanted it to, even though he did make a 20-point improvement, I think, from year 1 to year 2. They do need some, I think, experience on the coaching staff. I mean, Brett McLean's a great guy. He cared a lot. He worked his butt off, but I think they did need a little more of an identity there in Iowa. They needed somebody who could maybe get more out of some of those young players, give them some structure. And he certainly did that to a certain degree in Anaheim. So I'm curious to see how it goes. And they went from a guy, Tim Armory, who was notoriously kind of harder on guys. Then they went to kind kind of the positive player coach and Brett. Now they're back to Greg. So kind of that's how it goes in NHL, doesn't it?
Yeah, the pendulum just swings to one way or the other. Yeah, Tim was more like I think he just drove players crazy with the amount of meetings and the amount of video and things like that. And that's, look, it's an instructional league. And maybe if you have a veteran team like they had in Iowa at the time with the Cal O'Reillys and those, like, you don't exactly love that, but I think when you have a team that that Matt Hendricks is putting there this year that has Riley Heidt and Hunter Hayde and the Lamboses and the, O'Rourke's, assuming they give him a qualifying offer. And if Spacek's not traded, Kumpalainen, I think it's good to have a guy that's going to teach you the pro game, and I think that's what Greg's going to bring.
And I've been in Iowa a decent amount the last couple of years. As
you are our Iowa Wild beat writer at The Athletic.
I mean, I love development. I love, making those easier to make this trip than it was back in Tampa when I went to Syracuse every year. So enjoy this one better. But talking to those guys there, they want to be coached. They want to learn. They want to get better. Like, you go down there and they're still really positive, even with the last success they've had on the ice. So I think it could be a really good thing for them to get a different look, different perspective. And they have the same staff other than him, so they have some continuity with Ben Simon and those guys. But looking forward to seeing, especially some new blood. Riley Heidt, like you mentioned, should get some time in Iowa. And Hunter Hayt coming off a really good first pro season. And Lambo's maybe on the cusp of getting a call up and actually playing, which I think he got called up this year.
Yeah.
But, so it should
don't you have this feeling that Spacek's gonna be traded like tomorrow or Saturday for like a pick? Like they got to give him probably a change of scenery, right? I mean, they just acquired Juracek. It just seems like he's blocked right now.
It does feel that way in a sense. I've talked to him when I was in Iowa like a month or so ago, and he was a little bit down on his first season. It was maybe harder than he thought. That adjustment to pro hockey there. He made some steps this year, but I think like Brett McLean told him, like, you're not just playing for the Wild, you're playing for 31 other teams when you go out the ice. There's going to be a chance that somebody's going to want a player like that, because you can see what he's done for national teams, and he does have a good upside in him. So he would be a guy that would have some value in the market. And look at the guys that they've traded before. Adam Beckman, he gets surpassed by other guys, and Sammy Walker and other ones, where you just realize that maybe it's better for the team and for the player that they get a fresh start and chance to maybe get viewed from different eyes than they've seen them the last couple of years.
Yep, and we'll see what Matty Hendricks has up his sleeve to add some veterans to that team as well. He made a trade today, actually traded Brendan Gaunce to the Blue Jackets for a winger named Cameron Butler. So that's one player that'll be under Greg's tutelage down there, and I think they're going to, we'll see on July 1. They're not just going to add players on the Minnesota Wild. They'll sign 3 or 4 guys or more to 2-way contracts, including probably a goalie. That's going to be sort of Volstead insurance. Let's talk about the Bill Guerin press conference today. Obviously, we just had Bill on the radio about 15 minutes ago, but we got a chance to talk with him today for the first time since the Freddie Gaudreau trade. We talked to him a little bit about Rossi, a little bit about Kaprizov. We talked to him about the landscape of the market, to sort of set the table to this weekend's draft and then free agency next week. The biggest takeaway I had from it is this is a weird market. Like we all assume, like, wow, it's going to get so much easier with the cap going up, but it's actually anything but, because now everybody has cap space. And so it seems like nobody wants to, there is no doubt, whatever Bill wants to say, that Marco Rossi has been shopped around the league. And there's no doubt that a lot of teams have shown interest in Marco Rossi. But right now, clearly, nothing is materialized in terms of an equivalent player coming back or better. He's not trading. He could trade him tomorrow for a first-round pick to probably 20 teams. But right now, you hurt that, because there's no way to guarantee that you're going to replace his 60 points. So it just feels like this is going to be, for now and the foreseeable future, a market where if you're in Minnesota, you've got to show that you're free agents, especially, that you're as appealing as the Florida Panthers, the New York Rangers, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Montreal Canadiens, whatever. It's going to be a hard existence for a while. You've got to stand out a little bit, and one way to do that is to win and show you could win.
Yeah, and like Bill said today, a lot of teams will have more cap space than them going forward. Not just they have the trump card of having more money to maybe, let's say, overpay, but to spend more. And I think we talked about this the other day, me and you, Mike, about, why not use a guy you have like a Marc-Andre Fleury or somebody to be in free agency July 1, make a call to
John Tavares
or a free agent. We're not tampering here, but he obviously loved, he's re-signed here, like, well-respected guy, like, sell him on the family atmosphere, sell him on Minnesota summer, sell him on, everything you've seen from the organization, because it's so hard, like Nico said, to know what a team is like until you're actually in it. And so I think they have a lot of things they could sell, as far as what is attractive to live here and the market, the fans, but, it's going to be so much more competitive with teams that are really on that, not that mushy middle, but on the verge of competing and winning a playoff round, that you have to really put yourself ahead of other teams to get that chance.
The one of the coolest parts of my job, is that when the Wild season's over, I'm going and getting to cover stuff like the Eastern Final and the Stanley Cup Final. So this is actually 3 years in a row I've covered Florida. But the one thing I will say, when I talk to guys at NHL media tours in Vegas or Europe, or when I go into locker rooms like Carolina, Florida series, or Florida and Edmonton, and they ask about Minnesota, is they all ask, when is that team going to get over the hump? So it's not just
what hump, Mike?
It's like the organization thinks that we're making a big deal out of this, but the reality is that everybody in the league thinks of the Wild as a team that hasn't gotten past the first round in 8 of the last 10 years. And the 2 others, they didn't make the playoffs. So that's my biggest concern here is that it can't always be calling free agents and being like, have you ever been to Minnesota? We have Great Lakes. It's a great place to raise your kids. It's beautiful here. We got season, like all the cool stuff that we all love about Minnesota. It's got to be stuff with the hockey team. And the only way to do this is for this team to get over the hump, or it's just going to continue to be this big narrative in the league. And again, as the cap's going up to 103 and 112 and 130 and 150, and it's just more and more money to spend in the system. And now all these teams have that money. You've got to do something to differentiate yourself. And that's why it's important for them to, off the ice, build this winner here.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think this year was such a missed opportunity. I mean, they obviously felt they deserved to win that first round series against Vegas, and they had a really good shot, right? I mean, we covered the series. It's a fair argument to make that they were a better team for a good part of it and had a chance to go up, on Ryan Hartman's goal there. That was an offsides call on Gus
Nyquist.
That'll never, live in infamy there. But, you win a first round here, all of a sudden,
I think my tweet on the note was, oh my God, when he was offside.
Yeah.
I think it's, oh my God.
There are worse ones out there in tweet land there. But anyways, I think it's eventually going to come to a point where they'll have to break through, right? And I thought that was a big moment this year to get a chance to do that for Kirill Kaprizov. For Kirill Kaprizov, when he's signing an extension, we all assume and think, and people are confident that's going to happen. But if you're a top player in this league and you want to win and win multiple times, like Connor McDavid said, you have to be able to believe that there's a chance to do that. And it's harder to sell this hard-fought 6-game series of Vegas as a win when you didn't win it,
Yeah, exactly. And we all conveniently forget that they made the playoffs by a miracle, right?
Eric's net goal, like how that changes all their narrative.
Isn't it crazy? Like, if he doesn't score that goal, like, I wonder, you kind of wonder what happens, right? I mean, you can't just come back with
bigger changes. Point, or
exactly.
Like, what is Krill's tone at the end of the season?
Yeah.
Like, is it, more pressure to make some moves and not, so now it feels like they're kind of temporary expectations for what July 1st will be. I don't know if you feel that way, same way.
Yeah, I do. Part of it is just the list of players, right?
Yeah.
Like if Tavares, and to my point, like if Tavares does go to the open market, like the Wild are clearly going to go after him. They'll probably offer him what Brock Nelson got, 3 years at 7.5. But so are 25 other teams. Yeah. And so that's the thing is that Fleury's going to really have to sell him. Like, I will not play a prank on you, I promise. You have 3 kids, 1 on the way, all under this age. This is the greatest place in the world to play youth hockey. Like, he's going to have to really put that on. Besser's somebody, obviously. Like, Patrick Kane is intriguing. He's another great year. He'll help the power play, all that stuff. I'd love to cover him. Great guy. But after that, it is going to have to be trades. You and I have talked about Pajot and players like that. Like, to me, Pajot from the Islanders seems like the natural replacement for Freddie Gaudreau. That would be like the biggest upgrade ever. Like if all, and I don't mean that again as disrespect for Gaudreau, but if you're looking for a right shot guy, here's a perennial 40-point guy. That wins 60% of his draws. That's a great penalty killer. He's brings great energy, works his butt off. I think that I would not be surprised if Billy is trying to get that. But Matthew Darsh has sort of gone under the radar here, the new GM of the Islanders, and we don't know exactly what he's thinking.
Just like he learn from the best, and Steve Yzerman and Julian Breezeball, right? So I think he'd be a great fit.
You need to tap into your Matthew Darsh. Like I mean, what's good of covering from as long as you did without being able to get the Pajot scoop?
Yeah, we traded Tex when he got hired and stuff like that, and back and forth. They did do his origin story back in 4 years ago when he got into the
Tell me he owes you.
Yeah. Absolutely. He's got a lot more things on his plate than worrying about that. But yeah, like Pajot would be a great fit, I think. And if you get him and like a Nico Sturm, like all of a sudden your bottom six and your face-offs and your PK is going to be pretty strong. So I think, but then what do you do with your top six? Is you're off ready to be a second line center? Like Rossi's still here. He's your second line center in theory. Ryan Hartman. If he's Ryan Hartman a playoff, last playoffs, then he's putting himself in conversation for a top six spot.
I'll be interested if Yurov starts at the wing, or if there's another trade. But if they add a center, they're almost going to have to start Yurov as a wing. We'll see what happens. Just real quick on my joke about Darsh and you, and to get him to help you on the Pajot trade. That was kind of what I was joking around with Billy today at the press conference after we were done. I said, do you remember who represented you in your arbitration case? Many eons ago. It was Ian Pulver, Marco Rossi's agent. So that's what he wants. He wants a little remember that extra $1 million I gave you? I want an extra $1 million here from
payback.
Marco. Let's do this. Let's take a break. But when we come back, I want to talk to you about Kaprizov. And, the one thing that you've been telling me for the last week or so is how great would if you're going to only sign a fourth line center on July 1, how smart would it have been to also announce this big distraction that they're going to sign, him to an extension on that day. But it certainly doesn't sound like that's coming unless it really comes together in the next 4 or 5 days. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about a lot more with the Minnesota Wild with Joe Smith when we come.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
Back here on the Fan.
If you want to chime in what's happening with your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That is 64686. Standard text message and data rates apply.
Michael Russo from The Athletic back here on the Fan. Joe Smith, my colleague at The Athletic. You can follow him on the X machine at Joe Smith NHL. He's much nicer on X than I am. As you made a subtle comment before that there have been some...
Confirm.
You're just more active and energetic and
abrasive.
Passionate. I've been trying to use the positive words I could possibly imagine.
Abrasive.
Part of it's too, my wife tried to get me to use less Twitter because of our 1-year-old son. But yeah, it's, I try to engage as much as I can. I just know sometimes at times it's better to bow out in certain things.
Yeah. All right. So Kirill Kaprizov, I think that we all just figured because they've been able to talk all year that, maybe on July 1, we'd just have this big announcement. But Bill, unless he's completely fibbing, is letting us know that, no, that doesn't sound like it's the case. And it really doesn't sound like they've actually dug into the nitty gritty yet. I know that he and his staff have obviously been busy working on other stuff. Sometimes also, especially with this agent, you make an offer and then he just sits on it and you're kind of negotiating against yourself. Maybe that's part of the strategy here. But it also seems like a player you don't want to mess around with. Like there's many reasons to just get it done. And one being, what if he's underwhelmed with their offseason action? You don't want to, I don't know. I always take the pessimistic route, but
there's a lot of reasons. I mean, like I mentioned, we talked earlier this week of you want to be Christmas morning, like Craig Leopold said. How about a Kirill Kaprizov extension on July 1, right? Yeah. That would be that would make up for maybe what could be not as overwhelming of a July 1 as far as free agency goes. That'll be something fans can be excited about. There's something that free agents can be excited about that want to come to Minnesota. But I do know, like Bill said, it's a complicated kind of contract with these kind of guys. They do take time. There shouldn't be any panic if it's not done July 1st. But it does once there's more guys out there signing contracts, aka Mitch Marner, aka other ones, what might change more of the comps and calculus on what that deal might look like. But I don't see this as a very contentious negotiation, Mike. I think there's a pretty good idea of the number or number range that they'll be offering him, and he'll be a very highly paid and highly appreciated player. And like he said, he's been confident, and Kirill Kaprizov, at least to us publicly, has been very positive about how much he loves Minnesota and the teammates, and he fits here. So, but yes, I think there would be a lot of advantages to get it done July 1 at 10 a.m.
Well, I'll ask this then, because I am prone to panic. That is my job. And if we can't panic July 1, when can I panic? Because is it July 2? Can I start to
June
raise
30th,
concern?
2026, you could definitely panic.
Well,
if he's unsigned June 30th, 2026, you can 100% panic.
As far as I'm concerned, if there are Wild players reporting to Minnesota and this isn't done, I'm fully panicking and fully getting in the bunker.
Because especially because he has complete no move protection. So he will also. I'm trying to look up right now because you know how Billy said on the interview that they've looked up when other guys sign. When did Draisaitl sign? Was it right on July 1 or
was it August or something like that, or September? I think it was like later, like in the summer.
Yeah, you're right. It was September 3rd of 2024. And the reason why that makes sense is I sat down with him at that NHL media tour and he had just got it done. And the first thing he said to me is like, let's be honest, I left money on the table. And I'm just like, whoa. So
that $14 million or what was it, 13?
Yeah. So, but that is a good point, Brett, and Billy brought that up, is that we all just expect it to be done July 1. The one thing I will say from Kirill's perspective is when the CBA is announced tomorrow, the memo of understanding, and he sees that teams can only re-sign you for 7 years, and if you go somewhere else 6, that could very well change things, because as Craig Leopold has made it abundantly clear, nobody can offer the Wild more than the Wild. Nobody could offer Kaprizov more than the Wild, and the reason being is because that 8th year. Well, now if he could only get 6 years somewhere else, 100% changes the calculus.
And he's 29 years old when this contract starts, right?
And he's just coming off half a year where he missed games because of the core muscle stuff. So I think that alone, would entice. When the Wild throw 120 on the table, are you really going to say no? I don't know. I mean, the only thing I think, and this could open up a can of worms that we could talk about, and I brought this up to Billy today, and he did not want to go there. Is does Kirill do what a lot of us think Connor McDavid's going to do and be like, you know what, I'll sign, but it's not going to be for 8 years. It's going to be for 3, or it's going to be for 2 more. And then at least what you're saying is, all right, Billy, I'll sign for 2 years. That's now 3 years you have me. Now let's turn ourselves into a winner and put a little pressure on the organization to turn into a contender. And you kind of put that little nudge to him. Says, I'm willing to invest a little time here, but not my entire rest of my career. And am I making sense what I'm saying?
No, it makes a lot of sense, and that's why I think agents have told us they think a lot of the big guys might do that this year, whether it's a Marner or somebody else, unless they find a place like Vegas that everyone else is
a good example is Utah. Like Alan Walsh has said to me before that he thinks what you just said, that short-term deals. Yeah. So he goes on a 5-year extension with Peterka in Utah. Could have easily gotten 8, but he wanted 5 as an agent. For that very reason, because the cap is just going to continue to climb and climb and climb, and next thing you know, that 7.7 that Peterka's making these next 5 years, if he's the player that Alan Walsh and Bill Armstrong and the Utah Mammoth think he's going to be, he's going to be a $14 million player.
Yeah, and I think, and this makes sense in a way too, of if Guerin is telling the truth with that, which I believe he is, that this gives them more ammunition during the season next year, more flexibility to make some moves. Maybe, if Kirill signs, if he wants to sign for 2 or 3 years, that he's like, okay, well, I'm giving you guys patience. I'm going to give you guys a few years to make some more moves to make us more of a contender. But it's not like, he's giving carte blanche for 8 years. Like, I'm going to be here until, I'm 37 or until he's traded or something like that. But
how much, do you see this as a risk from the Wild's perspective of even going that long with him at that type of money? I mean, this is somebody that just missed half the season's games. And usually, as you know from covering this league, when you have core muscle injuries, it's a sign of some other problem causing those core muscles injuries. And usually that's hip. Mm-hmm. And we know every hockey player has a hip injury, but eventually that could go. I mean, it just seems like at 29 years old to give 8 times 15, maybe.
Yeah.
Do you see it? I mean, they have no choice, but do you see it as a risk?
I mean, of course there's a risk there in every long-term deal because no matter if he had history or not, there's always a chance he has an injury itself the following year or whatever. A couple of things I will bring up with this. One, Bill Guerin told me over the year when I asked about the injury, any concerns on a long-term deal, he said absolutely not. This guy's a machine. He's in terrific shape. Guys do get hurt. Not concerned about that at all. Number two, wasn't there a risk back when they signed Parise and Suter 13-year contracts? But at the time, it was very important and very needed. Injected a whole lot of optimism and energy into the franchise that needed it. It didn't work out in the end the way they wanted it to, but for a long stretch, they were a competitive team and they were a playoff team. And to get guys to come here and stay here, they wanted to do that. It was a good sign to the organization that those guys picked Minnesota, right? So if Kirill picks Minnesota and the best player in franchise history, the biggest superstar they've ever had, says, I want to stay in Minnesota, there's no replacing this guy.
Yep.
You think you can't get a good player right now on July 1? There's no Kirill Kaprizov available for purchase right now.
That's how I like, and I know that, again, fans want them to go out and just spend a bunch of money this summer, but I just think that is a huge, I would rather them sign Kaprizov, do some periphery changes on short-term deals, and then go into the summer next year when there could be a lot bigger names. What if Panarin wants to play with Kaprizov? But all of a sudden you can't sign Panarin because you just gave Ehlers $8.5 million. It's better. I know that it's probably not good for Billy's job security to wait, and it will not make the fans here excited because they've been waiting for this moment, and it's not up to them to worry about for 2026. But that would be a real shame if they, blow all their cap space now on just idiotic signings, and then, so I think we all have to just be a little sort of tepid on how we all handle the next.
If you waited this long, if you're a fan, if you waited this long,
might as well wait 1 more year, 2 more years, 3 more years.
Well, that's not out of the question where two really star players that are really good friends want to play with each other, right? If that's a carrot you want to, I think they have the same agent too, don't they? Not to say that Panarin's coming to Minnesota, but I'm saying if you have the flexibility next year via trade or next year via free agency to go after another big fish, and you have that cap space, then gives a lot more options to do it, especially if there's underwhelming in terms of the guys who are available in free agency or trade. You don't want to just trade Marco Rossi because you want to get rid of him, because you don't want to get rid of him. You need to get value back to replace him at center or get a scoring wing.
I'll just say from a Rubes perspective, it is frustrating. Yeah, obviously I'm not worried about 2026, like you said, but it's frustrating because we've been told to wait for so long.
You're right.
And then what happens last year is, well, we made the playoffs, but can you believe we did it with $14 million? And what an accomplishment. And then, what did we do? Well, we're just going to go out with that same team again, the next year. So it just feels like, well, why was that such an accomplishment if that is the team that you were already going to put out the year following?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. I know exactly what you mean. And look, from somebody that just spent the last month around the Florida Panthers, I like the Wild, as a roster. I think in the West you could win with this roster, but is it a Stanley Cup contender? Obviously you can't just snap your fingers and make that, but the Wild have a lot of work to do. And it just seems like they just get married to their same team every year. And it'd be nice to just get some external changes.
Bill Guerin said when he came in that it felt like a country club. And I feel like at times we've never really gotten over that. There's been people that are still
or another country club has been created. That's
correct.
Something. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to have Brett's Bites. Is that a little
breakaways?
Yeah, Brett's breakaways. Okay, and it'll be a little less stressful for you because you're throwing it at Joe and myself and not Pat Micheletti and Fallness.
I know you're not going to rip me nearly as hard.
No, definitely not.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
Be right back on the Fan. Michael Russo from The Athletic. Final couple segments of the show. Joe Smith in studio as well. We had John Krasinski on last hour, and he said the Wolves were taking that 31st pick and trying to make a trade, and they moved back 5 spots and get 2 future second-round picks from the Phoenix Suns. So John Krasinski all over that. You can read him in The Athletic tomorrow and all his draft coverage. Awesome story on, apparently it's Belanger. That's how it's pronounced, even though it's spelled Behringer. Belanger, great stuff on Belanger in today's Athletic. And as I mentioned yesterday, he had a great sit-down with A-Rod and Mark Lohr. So definitely read that. And it's time for Brett's Break. I heard there's a jingle, too, right?
There is.
All right, let's play that.
It goes like this.
It's time for Brett Blakemore's Breakaway.
Kaprizov in alone. Nobody going to catch him. Kaprizov scores!
And now, Blakemore's Breakaway.
All right, so just so people know at home, the funniest part of that jingle is the fact that while it's playing, you're just smiling. Ear to ear.
Well,
you're so proud of it.
Well, Halvey, I'm proud of Halvey for making it. The credit to him. But I'm also happy that I'm going to be able to say my opinions and not get interrupted every 3 words, which is going to be great. So let's start here. And I'm not going to get ripped for it afterwards, too.
We'll see.
Well, that's always possible. I want to start with Yurov. Oh, let me play the... There we go. I want to start with Yurov because all the talk of Rossi, which we'll get to him, of is he a fourth line player? Is he not? Where is he in the top 6? To me, Yurov has to be in the top 6. Like wing, center, we can talk about that, but they have to make room for him somewhere because if you're playing him in the third line and now he's not happy and he's not getting the minutes and starting him off like, I don't know. I just think it doesn't show a lot of confidence in him. To me, he's got to be in the top 6.
Joe, you concur?
I mean, I think that's where he's going to be eventually. Might not be on night 1 of the season.
Not rioting.
The panic mode there. But no, I think that's where he's suited for. I mean, this will be his first time playing center, like pro hockey in North America. So might be some adjustments there. But from all accounts, he's a very smart and heady player and good defender. So I think he'll be a top 6 player. It might not be night 1, but I think at this point this season he will be a top 6 guy.
Yeah, I agree. I will say it's not the Wild style. It'll probably be
I know.
fourth line next to Justin
Brazeau.
I would agree. I mean, we got to see what he is. But I know that Bill was here and keep him happy. He would probably have a problem with that one. That's not he's the old you got to earn it type thing. But the difference here is that his agent tells me he's not stepping foot in Iowa. So if that's the case, you are going to have to play him. Right now, I put him on our depth chart today. Joe, I don't know if you noticed that as second line left wing. The only reason why I did that is because I didn't want to list him at fourth line center and then just have the entire comment section turn into that. So, by the way, somebody sent the KFAN Bradshaw and Bryant text line. What are the chances Kevin Fallness is eating chicken wings with Billy G tonight? And I wrote back, no chance he's invited.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah. Zero chance.
Well, I'll say there's a guy that played for the Wild that couldn't get off the fourth line, went somewhere else on the top line, and now just a couple days ago signed a 4-year deal for $4 million AAV in Chicago. That'd be Ryan Donato. So you get a chance on the top line. Turns out good things could happen. Speaking of that, Marco Rossi, when you had Bill Guerin on, and he said, if I think Marco Rossi is a fourth line player, I think he said, quote, I should quit my job and never work in hockey again. But Ryan Hartman was playing so well that they elevated him, which in fairness he was. But why fourth line? Was Nyquist playing all that great? Was Gaudreau, who they just got rid of, was he playing all that great? Was Johansson playing there was still room for him to move up, in my opinion, that didn't have to lock him in with Trenyon. I just feel like I don't want to say, I don't know. I could question it. I'll put it that way.
Yep, Joe.
I think that's the better argument overall is that the guys ahead of him on the third line, the Gaudreaus, did not perform well or didn't have that production, right? That Rossi had 2 goals. The argument for him going down to the fourth was he needed to play better, and Hartman played better than the other 2 guys. But yeah, I mean, I think overall that, the bigger argument can be made that he should have been on that third line in one kind of the matchup there.
Yeah, I agree with you both.
Thank you.
I just felt, and Joe and I have different intel than sometimes we are able to report and things like that. But I feel like the one reason why we were kind of harping on Marco even into the playoffs was we kind of both read the tea leaves of where this was going. And we started to get this impression that they didn't think that he would be able to function in his first playoffs, similar to the way Boldy couldn't. And the reality is that it just, even in game one, when they were still in the game, he was the one downgraded. It just felt like preemptively they went in with like, this is what we're going to do. And then they never relented from that. And that was my only issue. And at the end of the day, as you said, Brett, you're looking at Goudreau and Gus Nyquist, and that line was just brutal. So anyway.
But they're the veteran guys. They're the guys that have the experience.
The coach,
the coach trusts them to not do anything out there. So that's why they're out on the third line, I guess.
By the way, did you see the text?
I'm guessing you're talking about Maury Amsterdam guy.
Yes.
So he texted into the text line, "This is already going better than Beyond the Pond. Micheletti would already be screaming at Blakemore," which is a fact. That is true. We would still be probably talking about, I don't know, Mick Beckman, as he likes to call him. We'd probably be talking about
anytime
that.
Pat Micheletti goes after you, just remind him he wanted Tyler Ennis here, and that, thought he was going to be a superstar.
Well, he didn't want Jack Eichel at all. Thought it was a terrible idea, and here we are.
Yeah.
What's the latest with the goaltender situation? I mean, I've been championing Wallstedt through thick and thin, and it's been more thick lately in Iowa, but I think there's other issues in front of him in Iowa. What's the latest with the goaltending situation
Joe,
for Minnesota?
how about you answer that? Because you just wrote a great story on Wallstedt.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like even Wallstedt said, it was a quote-unquote terrible year for him. A lot of reasons for that, injuries being one of them, 3 separate injuries. The team was not great defensively in front of him, which played a role. He couldn't get a rhythm. So I am betting on a bounce-back year for Wallstedt. I think it'll be interesting. He has never been in this role before as like playing 20, 25 games a year backup to Gustafsson. But I think they're going to look for another, like a number 3 goalie in free agency to help in insurance-wise in case of injuries or maybe in that respect. So I think that'll be the plan at goal is to have Wallstedt as backup to Gustafsson and number 3 picked up on the market for immediate Iowa.
We haven't. Look, one thing we have to do, because you and I have been going through fourth line guys, we have to start trying to figure out who that third goalie is going to be. Like, go through who makes sense,
I think how many guys are out there.
Yeah. Is the Hamburglar still available?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Like, somebody asked about Alex Lyon, and I just don't know if, like that'd be a great signing, but I don't know if Alex Lyon at this point, after playing, it's been a while, right? Probably 4 or 5 years since he was in the AHL. So whoever they sign is going to be essentially their AHL goalie that would have to slide through waivers and be insurance policy if things go wrong with Wallstedt or Gustafsson. And I just don't know, 1, if Alex Lyon could slide through waivers, and 2, if he would be willing to sign up for, I'm sure he wants to be an NHL goalie.
Like a Jonas Johansson kind of guy, or like a Solars kind of guy, or like whatever. Not a Jake Allen who's going to get money on the market, a guy who's comfortable in that role.
Yeah. Fallness just appeared on my text message. So ask the next question and let me see what he wants.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask about Juracek because the NHL draft is tomorrow night. The Wilds don't have a pick in the first round, at least as of now. I don't think they're going to move around, but who knows? I guess my question is, or my thought is, it seems like a lot to give up for a guy that they really didn't give a chance. Now, he did get injured, in fairness, but he had a cup of coffee up here, and that was pretty much it. And when you're giving up a first-round pick, I feel like I expect you have more confidence in the player to give him a chance to make an impact. I'm not saying he needs to be paired with Brock Faber, day one, but it just felt like he never really got that shot. He got a couple games, and that was it. And now we don't have a pick, and I don't have anything to look forward to tomorrow night as far as the NHL draft goes. So at what point are we like, boy, that was a lot to give up for Juracek? Or is it still, he's young, and we got to wait and be patient, blah, blah, blah?
Well, I think that night it was fair to say it was a lot to give up for Juracek, right? They made the trade, but I think this trade will be evaluated a few years from now, not right now or September or October. I think he's been through a lot the first few years in the league. Didn't get to play much, obviously up and down in Columbus, needed a fresh start. And obviously this year with the cap situation, when he was up with the Wild, he didn't play. He has kind of an insurance policy there. So I think it's too early to give up on him with his size and his hockey sense and his shot. Skating needs some work, but I think with more time maybe in Iowa to start the year and full health, I guess Bill Guerin said he'll be here, not here yet, but we'll be here a lot this summer to work with the training staff and getting stronger and faster. So I would, if he turns out to be, a middle pair defenseman there, it'll end up being, I think, a pretty solid guy.
The one thing I will just say about Juracek and to your point is last year they were pretty healthy on their back end from a right shot standpoint, so they really didn't have any place for him. And then they were in such cap hell that they had to save money for Z Boyum. That even remember Ogren came up and he scored one of the biggest goals of the Wild season, and they had to send him down the next day, and then they kept him the rest. So a lot of it was cap reasons. So they're going to give him every opportunity to make this year's team, and we'll see how good he is starting this year. You're the boss because you have the calculator. Do we have to wrap up and go to break?
I think we should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that is Brett's breakaway is definitely better than any one that he's ever done with Fallness and Micheletti, especially
100%.
Fallness just bothering all of us with that grating voice, all that stuff. This is Michael Russo from The Athletic. Joe Smith's also in studio. One final small segment on the other side of the break.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.
Check out our contest page now for your chance to win a pair of tickets to the CONCACAF Gold Cup quarterfinal this Sunday at U.S. Bank Stadium between the U.S. men's national team and Costa Rica. Enter now at KFAN.com keyword contest. I'm about to. KFAN.com keyword contest for your chance to win.
Love Costa Rica. Fun show, Brett.
Yeah.
You know who I got the most, no offense, Joe, but the most positive feedback on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line? Nico Sturm. Everybody was, well-spoken, really smart, intellectual guy, honest. So we'll see if the Wild pursue him on Tuesday.
Apparently he's changed the minds of Wild fans everywhere.
The self-awareness he had, though, was really great. The self-awareness and the looking back on, hey, I thought I was more than this fourth-line guy, and it's okay to be a fourth-line guy when you're a really good one. And that was makes some sense now why he turned that deal down and went somewhere else.
If people remember, the only reason why Bill Guerin traded Nico Sturm is that he turned down a 5-year deal in the 2.5 range. And Billy's just well, then the heck with it. We're going to trade him. But at the time, again, he's 26 years old as opposed to 30. And he's thinking, he sees Eriksson Ek and Rossi coming and all these guys in front of him. And he starts to think, well, where am I going to play? So he goes and tests the waters elsewhere. He gets that 5-year deal with San Jose, wins 2 cups since then. Now he's a free agent. I think he got a 4-year deal, if I remember, actually. Now he's a free agent, and he realizes now what he is and his role in the league. And he's got a couple cup rings to, as a thing to sit back on and say, hey, that worked out for me. But now it's I'm willing, and we'll see. I think the Wild have interest in him. I do think they probably feel like there's maybe options of players that might fit the bill a little more. In other words, the one thing that Nico is great at is killing penalties and winning draws. He's one of the best drawmen in the NHL. But there are other guys also out there that can also maybe finish a little better, make a play, that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so we'll see where that goes. But we'll see. I mean, it's going to be really, really interesting what happens there. Somebody asked Joe Smith, if Pittsburgh struggles again next year, can Billy and Marc-Andre convince Sidney to come to Minnesota? Only half joking.
He's been here before. Played at Shattuck.
Yes.
Just down the road.
And everybody, once they've stepped foot in Minnesota, they love it here. So
I think that Marc-Andre Fleury's power of persuasion is very strong. I'm not sure it's as much as him and Sid are tight, but
I just think that if Sidney ever leaves Pittsburgh, and I actually am one of those people that think he will, I think he wants to play that one final year with Malkin and then would consider it. I think it's Montreal or Colorado or something like that.
With McKinnon or playing, he wants to win, right?
Yeah.
And I think,
but also Montreal, his dad's from there. He grew up a habit, that type of stuff. I don't know. It makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I do agree. Fans, it's just enough. They want centers, and let's see this team get a really quality center. Joe, thanks for coming in studio.
Absolutely.
We're going to be seeing a lot of each other in the next 4 days. Draft tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Central Time. The Wild, at least currently, don't have a first-round pick. And then Saturday, they have 5 picks. Thanks to Dan Hayes from The Athletic from joining. Chris Johnston from The Athletic from joining. Johnny Krasinski from The Athletic for joining. Joe Smith from The Athletic for... Apparently, I got to branch out. Anytime. Just hit one of our articles. You can get in for cheap. Judd Brackett, thanks for coming on. Bill Guerin, of course, Nico Sturm. I am filling in for Barreiro again on Monday. Greg Cronin, the Iowa coach, is going to be one of my guests, and we'll see what's going on. Maybe we can get Brock Bester to come on. Who knows? This is Michael Russo from The Athletic. Brett, thanks for all the hard work back there. You're the gem. No matter what Kevin Fallness says about you, you are the best. I always say that. Talk to you Monday, everybody.
I'll be around.
My name is Desiree, and I'm a first-generation college student.
I'm Zach. I'm undecided in my major, and I'm a catcher.
This message was sent to you.
$500 down the toilet along with your performance. You are worthless.
Get the hell off the field before you lose me any more money you saw in my...
This is wrong.
I'm more than a bet.
Stop harassing college athletes over a bet. Learn more at morethanabet.org.